this is, the global Cape buying market, okay? As of December 31st, the cheapest one by far is Greece, okay? And obviously people hear about horror story, National Bank of Greece, Korea's Bank, Alpha Bank, they all require recapitalization. Okay? That's why the Cape is quite low. Russia, okay, Ireland, 7.3 Cape. That's certainly fit the definition of being cheap. Argentina, Italy, Hungary, Jordan, Austria, Lebanon, Czech, and so on. And so on. And then the expensive one, the Indonesia, the Philippines, the USA, and by far the most expensive is Sri Lanka. Okay.
CC,
yes.
question? Where'd you get this data?
From Melbourne Faber.
Pardon me?
From Melbourne Faber, I subscribe to one of his service. So this, data is updated once every quarter. Okay? And this is all the market that are somewhat meaningful. Obviously, for the U.S. investor, Argentina is off limit because currency is not convertible, and there's 3 different currency rate to the U.S. dollar. So you actually cannot have a Argentina ETF in the U.S. market because it's not convertible. Okay? So what we are saying here is that looking at the cheap, okay, Greece is very volatile. Okay? Make no mistake about that. The standard deviation of the weekly return for the Athens Composite Index for the last 52 weeks was 4.8%, or equivalent to 760 data points every week. Weekly standard deviation. Okay? So obviously, this is a very risky environment. That's why it's so cheap. But certainly something that worth looking. Okay? Versus if you look at Ireland, okay, is 1.7%. Russia, I call that domestic management work. Okay? Obviously now you got your creating situation at work. But one thing that you need to know is that historical median K, Russia has a very short history, is low at 8.5. So 7 times versus 8.5 million, it's really not that cheap. Okay? Ireland, the graduate from IMF program, Moody now placed the debt as investment grade with positive outlook. Argentina, forget about it. Currency and transparency are major issue. IMF censored the country under reporting the inflation rate. Austria, okay, interesting country. Okay, one of the problems that it has is they have nationalized a bank called Cooper Iper. I don't know. Did I say it right? This is German, so I think it's Cooper Iper. So they have nationalized this bank, but they have not decided what to do. So if they if they try to rescue this bank, then the sovereign debt to GDP ratio will increase. If you remember, the Ireland got into trouble because it bailed out all the failed banks. So if Austria has to bail out this one, then the sovereign debt will be hit. Italy and Spain is actually some quite straight. As on the expensive side, I mentioned USA current trading 12-month P is 19. It is high because of the poor earning in 2008. Philippines and Indonesia after reaching some high lows as 4. Yes.
So one thing I want to point out is next to mention that the U.S. has a high number for Cape.
Yes.
Because of the unusual nature in 2008. Is there some reasonable methodology to adjust for that basis? If that was an anomaly, and we want to get, so to speak, a restated version of Cape, because is there some adjustment that one would usually make in the
So as I mentioned, as I said, none of these material are mine. Okay, so, and I mentioned that, so let me just go through this document here. Okay. So So the document they used in this paper, one is the American Farmers technical asset allocation paper. Dave Blitz, that's on the Journal of Portfolio Management. The CAPE article. As I mentioned, there are three variations of the CAPE. One is Vincent Deleuze, the best indicator you have never heard of. Okay? This up here on the net. This is the 2-year PE plus inflation plus unemployment rate, which he said that worked quite well. Okay? And so up here on this application, if you don't want to get it, let me know. You can get it from me. Okay? I mentioned Jeremy Siegel, the NEPA CAPE, which was presented to the Q group, available from me too. Okay, and then Doug Ramsey's approach. Okay, he's using the 5-year normalized earnings. Okay, so I mean, so if you use CAPE, it was defined in a certain way, and you have to use that. If you believe in these, and they all say, they will present to you evidence that they work better than CAPE. Okay, so Jeremy Siegel would tell you, the NEPA CAPE, which use the national income product account. So the huge loss on the Fannie Mae, huge losses on AIG were not included in the NEPA CAPE. Okay, so that's. So these are the, and then this Doug Ramsey's article, again, you can get it from me. Final slide, okay. In terms of the ETF, that's in use right now. So Greece, GIEK, SSI $150 million, 3-month moving average 180,000. Look at the relative strengths. I was 81. In the investor business daily, the most that you can find is probably 95. So right now, let's say, solar, which is ticker symbol PAN 10. Okay, is probably 95. That's the best you can get. The worst you can get is probably 5. Okay, so let's say. Gold mining share late last year will be around 5. Okay. And going back to about 3 months ago, it was 75 at that point in time. So obviously the market is thin. One thing I do want to note is that the Coca-Cola Atlantic Bottling AG. This is the largest bottler of Coca-Cola in the developing Europe. They were so sick and tired of being traded in being labeled as a Greek stock. They moved the company headquarters to Switzerland, so that's why it's AG. But it's still the #2 holding there. Russia, okay. So obviously this volume, this number is a bit old. After the Ukrainian crisis, there was one day 25 million shares of the RSX was traded. So right now this is probably around 6 million shares. So it was pretty even at that time. It was only 39, and before the Monday's crisis, it was 10. Okay. Ireland, ERL, okay, very thin. One thing I want to note is that Eaton PLC and Activus PLC are not the top 10 holding of ERL, both are included in S&P 500. So these are basic American company. They moved the headquarters to Ireland for tax reason, for some other reason, but they are not in the holding. The biggest holding is something called CRH, which stands for Cement Rollstone Holding, which is about 20% of the weight there. Okay. Italy, okay. The Austria, okay, is thin. This one is I call that extremely thin. Okay. Portugal has $14 million in SS, 20,000 shares traded every day. Relative strength is about 66. Span, fairly accurate relative strength. Yeah. So what you are seeing here is that these relative strengths seem to be holding up quite well among the cheap market. I mean, again, there's no assurance that if you buy it tomorrow, it will do well. Okay? But this, and then just for a element of curiosity, so where is the model saying right now? The Blitz and the East model saying right now. So it's basically the top quartile is the mid cap, United Kingdom, and then half split between large cap, U.S. and large cap. This is Japan. Japan, U.S. mid cap, and split between the U.K. and U.S. large cap. So that's what the model is pointing right now. That's it. So hopefully that it try to marry momentum, valuation, and then try to see if we can make it work better. Yes.
So you mentioned you got the capes from Levine Favor.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
service is that? It's not Idea Farm.
It's idea fund. Yeah.
It's Idea Farm.
Are these published or you calculate?
These are my calculation. Okay, so the calculation, there's some, and you may not be able to get, say, the price earning ratio of the UK equity or Japanese equity, 8-month end exactly. Okay, so I use some approximation. So a good example is that, okay, for the UK equity, the FTSE organization published the FTSE all index price earning ratio every day down to the 2 places after decimal. Okay, so I use that. Similarly, Nikkei organization published the Japanese, Nikkei 225 PE down to the 2 places after decimal. Because in the case of Japan, the corporate earning has increased quite tremendously because of the depreciation of the yen. So if you just use the month, the year-end number, and then adjust for the price variation, it will not come out with the right number. In terms of some of the number, like U.S. high yield, okay, so this is coming from the FINRA Bloomberg database. Okay, so on the end of the month, okay, I look at what was the value at that point in time.
So how many different places do you have to look for your data?
Ideally, there's probably 5 or 6 different places. Okay, the original article was actually, as I mentioned, the Blitz article was actually published in for the management. You can just go to the SSRN and download that directly. So, and so this is what you are seeing is my interpretation. I actually wrote to Dave Blitz, which is a young chap, okay, and say, where are the indicators stand right now? He said, cannot tell you, but you can buy my Rebecca GTA fund. Yeah. Okay, any more questions? As I mentioned, if you want any of these, okay, it's easier to get it from me. The first 3, you can download directly from the SSI.
CC,
Yes,
is this your investing practice now?
close enough. If you go back to the, the disclosure, I'm long on US and European equity, Greek, Ireland, Africa, Spain, and actually I added Portugal. Okay. Portugal is very hard to buy. Okay. And, you know, on one day I bought 1,900 shares. On another day I bought 9 shares. Okay. So it cost me $8 of broker commission to buy $153 of the ETF. So that's a challenge.
It might also be hard to sell.
What?
It may also be hard to sell.
Yeah, but if you believe that, okay, you know, this evaluation framework actually works, you can hold for a long period of time. Okay, so let's say that my position appreciates 30%. So if I have to decide to dump it and say lose 1% of the bid-ask spread, I can take it.
But if something's so illiquid, if you basically said it's not investable at that point, would it really make that much of a difference in one's performance?
Because there are no places as cheap as Greece. There is only one Greece that with a K for 3.9. Every place else, Russia is 7. So if you say, I must buy cheap, because cheap actually, you know, give me a high potential return, then I have to buy Greece.
So basically, you're picking the tails of each side of the curve.
I'm picking the tail, you know, I try to buy cheap, I try to buy what's going up with good price momentum. So you can see that I don't have any Russia. Russia is cheap, but the price momentum is terrible. Okay. Similarly, you know, like China. China is cheap. The price momentum is terrible, so don't buy it. So that very simple rule will say you want to buy it cheap, but with when it's going up. And then therefore, you know, and you know the Dave Bliss framework said it works, and generally speaking, it works. Okay. But you know, execution will be a challenge.
So do you sample this the end of every month? Revisit?
I'm not asked this.
Theoretically, it's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
to do.
Theoretically, you know, remember any of these work. Okay, doesn't matter whether you do it at end of the month or the 15th of month. They should
Right.
produce about the same result. And you know, there may be a reason you want to avoid end of the month, right? Because you know, so if other people are using the same methodology and you buy it on end of the month, you may be paying more for it. Yes.
So I noticed that your universe in the example is primarily region-based, not so much, industrial sector-based. How did you arrive at that universe?
That's not my universe. Okay, this remember whether that's been the the 13 GTA 13. That's Mabel Faber's universe. Okay, Fan B, he has 12 global asset class. So that's what was given in the academic article. So these academic articles, meaning that they have gone through the peer review process, and if you want, you should be able to produce identical results.
So you probably, for practical, your use, you probably use a different universe for your personal investing.
Yeah, so because I'm also trying to take advantage of the K information. So in the whether Faber's framework or the Dave Bliss framework, they did not mention Greece or Ireland. Okay, but if you look in the GTAA, the holding on the ETF, it does have Ireland and Spain and some other stuff there as well, because he essentially using this type of framework. Now you can decide, as I mentioned, you can use in terms of sell rule, you can use 50 days, 75 days, 200 day moving average, to make the timing decision. You can use William O'Neill's formula, you can use whatever. So what I'm proposing here is sort of general framework, and each of you may have different ways of applying these frameworks for your own investment. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That was not power. Good. Yeah, that was power. Things would be really dark in there. All right, let's see. Now we've got John coming up.